Western philosophy has a founding assumption so old and so taken for granted that nobody noticed it was an assumption. It goes like this. Speaking is natural, immediate, and true. Writing is secondary, an imperfect copy, a shadow of the real thing, which is the spoken word. Aristotle says it. Plato says it. Saussure, who invented modern linguistics in the 20th century, says it. All of them say it, and all of them are wrong. Think about it. When you speak the word tree, is that more natural than writing the word tree? The sound is not the tree. The sound is not even close to the tree. It is a noise your mouth makes which a particular culture has agreed arbitrarily to attach to a particular meaning. There is nothing natural about it. The voice is not closer to truth than the letter. Say the word tree out loud. Now write it. Now say it in Japanese. Ki. The sounds are completely different. Same tree. The idea that the voice is the real form and writing is the copy, that is an ideology, not a fact. The belief that the spoken word is the home of truth. I call this logocentrism. The belief that meaning lives in the voice, in the presence of the speaking subject. My entire book is an argument that this belief has organized Western philosophy for 3,000 years, and that it is time to dismantle it. Here is what Saussure got right. Signs do not mean things directly. Dog does not mean dog because of some natural resemblance between the sound and the animal. Dog means dog because it is not fog, not log, not cat, not wolf. Meaning is differential. It is produced by differences between signs, not by any positive presence in the sign itself. This is correct, but Saussure stopped too soon, because meaning is not only different, it is also deferred. When you hear a word, you do not grasp its meaning instantly in a single moment of pure presence. You carry traces of what came before, and you anticipate what comes after. Meaning is always being produced, always arriving, never fully arrived. I call this difference, spelled with an A. An A that is inaudible in French. You cannot hear the difference between difference and difference. It exists only in writing. Read the word bank. You don't know its meaning until the sentence ends. I went to the bank, financial institution. The river bank was muddy. Riverbed. Meaning is never fully present in the word. It is always deferred to context, to what surrounds it, to what came before, and what comes next. That deferral is difference. I chose to mark this concept with a letter, an A, that only appears in writing, never in speech, precisely because the argument is that writing is not secondary to speech. It is writing, the trace, the mark, the difference, that makes meaning possible in the first place. Saussure makes two claims. The first, writing is dangerous, secondary, a corrupting image of the spoken word. It distorts language. It should be expelled from linguistics and studied separately, like a disease. Strong claim, very confident. The second claim, which is also his most important contribution to linguistics, is that signs are arbitrary. There is no natural bond between a sound and its meaning, none whatsoever. Do you see the problem? If signs are arbitrary, if there is no natural bond between sound and meaning, then there is no reason to privilege the spoken sign over the written one. You cannot say writing is a secondary copy of speech, and also say that speech has no natural priority over any other system of marks. The arbitrariness of the sign destroys the very hierarchy Saussure was trying to defend. He undermined his own argument with his own best idea. Why is the English sound dog more natural than the written word dog? Both are arbitrary. The Spanish word is perro, the Japanese is ine. None of them is closer to the animal. Saussure says signs are arbitrary, then treats the spoken sign as special. I simply point out you can't have it both ways. What Saussure saw, without being able to say it, is that the structure making language possible is not phonetic. It is a structure of differences, traces and marks, what I call arch writing. Writing in the deep sense, not letters on a page, but the system of differences that makes any sign possible, spoken or written. Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher, uses the word supplement throughout his work in a peculiar way. He says that writing supplements speech, that culture supplements nature, that education supplements the natural goodness of man, The supplement for Rousseau is always an addition to something already complete, something unnecessary, even dangerous. Nature is whole, culture merely pads it. Speech is full, writing merely copies it. But read him carefully and something else appears. The supplement does not only add to a fullness, it fills a lack. If nature were truly complete, if speech were truly full, the supplement would never be needed. You do not add something to what is already whole. The very need for a supplement reveals that what it supplements was already incomplete, already marked by absence, already in need. You call your friend, she doesn't answer. You leave a voicemail, a supplement for her absent voice. But now think, was the telephone call itself the original, or a supplement for face-to-face presence? And is face-to-face presence the origin, or a supplement for some deeper connection you can never fully have? There is no bottom, only supplements of supplements. There is no original presence that the supplements supplements. There are only supplements replacing supplements all the way down. This is what Rousseau could not bring himself to say, but what his own text, read carefully, says for him. I wrote one sentence that has been misread more often than perhaps anything else in 20th century philosophy. The sentence is, there is nothing outside the text. People read this as a kind of radical idealism, as if I were saying that reality does not exist, that tables and chairs and suffering and war are just words. This is not what I said. This is not what I meant. And the misreading is itself instructive. What I said is this. Everything we call reality is already organized by structures of signs, traces, differences. You never have access to a raw, unmediated world. You always encounter it through language, through culture, through the systems of marks that came before you. Even what you call direct experience is already structured by text, by the traces of meaning you carry. You see a sunset, you call it beautiful. But beautiful is a concept with a history, a culture, a grammar. Different cultures have different concepts. A medieval monk and a Japanese poet and a physicist do not see the same sunset, not because the sunset is not real, but because meaning, including the meaning of beauty, of nature, of sky, is always already textual. There is no view from nowhere. The construction is not the claim that nothing is real. It is the claim that nothing is simply, purely, transparently present, without trace, without difference, without supplement. What opens meaning and language is writing, as the disappearance of natural presence. That is the whole book in one sentence. And I wrote it in 1967, and I stand by every word.